we've had someone from the start of the break, coming back from break. We had one class out consistently, but it was kind of spacing itself out. And so we had like this time to figure this one out. Okay, now we're getting hit by another one. Okay, and then all of a sudden it was just everything at once. And that was just the last 2 weeks for us. So, but yeah, so now I'm planning my spring ECFE book because it was due February 1st. So we're starting it now. How it goes.
It's wonderful to see everybody. And Melissa, welcome back. I've been following your hair adventures on Facebook. So at first when I logged in and I saw your short hair, it was just like, oh, Melissa has such a cute short. Oh, that's right. She did the whole life. Yeah. So
17 inches.
How many? 13?
17.
17.
And I was able to raise $702 with it too, to donate. So
wonderful.
Yeah, it's the 4th time I've done it, but I'm starting to go gray. So it's probably my last time because they don't like to take it after it goes gray. So.
Oh, they don't?
Because the hair gets too coarse and too thick for them to put into the wigs, and it doesn't take a dye as easily.
Yeah.
So they don't want it after it goes gray. So, oh well. I'll be fine.
Good for you for doing that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I had to go in for a COVID test. Not that I have had exposure, although, but I broke my wrist. So I know, look at that bruising. So remember how a week ago I was in Chicago at my daughter's dining table? Yes. So just a few hours later, she went off with friends as she had planned to. You'll appreciate this as mothers, right? So she went off. She had told me weeks before I got there that she had this thing with friends, and was that okay for her to be gone Friday night? And then but I might be exposed to COVID. How do you feel about that? So we had a nice conversation about it, but I knew she was really looking forward to going. And so she went off to that. And then, I figured, well, I'll just walk to the grocery store and I'll get a few things for myself and then come back. And in Chicago, they had like 4 inches, but it was really light snow sort of through the day. And so when I went outside, I was more focused on like the snow being kind of mushy and more like not getting my feet wet than anything. But I guess what had happened was from places that had shoveled, as the temperatures dropped, what looked like wet pavement was actually icy. So yes, so I went down and did the thing, and being a small-boned white woman of advanced age. So anyway, but I tell you, thank heaven for rideshare services, and this was like a great thing with technology, because I sort of realized, this is probably a trip to the ER. And of course, what's weighing in my head, parents, is that my daughter's out having a good time. And how much of this can I do on my own? Like, do I really need her? Like, I don't want to disturb her night. So got back to her place, called my health insurance just to make sure that there wasn't a specific hospital I had to go to. And they said, no, with ER, you go anywhere. So I did that. And then I Google mapped the closest ER or hospital, and then got onto Lyft or Uber. And, within 5 minutes, somebody was there, drove me up there. And then, so it was like super convenient, and I wasn't in a lot of pain, and it was a really interesting ER experience, but I won't go into that. But there was a young man there who was like a medical assistant or something, who was about my daughter's age. And I said, so Gilbert, if I was your mom, what should I do? I'm perfectly fine. Like, you guys are taking really good care of me. Do I need to interrupt my daughter? And, I won't make her mad by not telling her. Like, I'll tell her, but I know that she'll want to just drop everything and come over. And she doesn't need to. Like, I'm fine. Right? And you know, he was wonderful. And he said, well, if you were my mom, like I would at least want to know, but go ahead and tell her, like, she doesn't need to be here, that you're fine. Right. So anyway, so she met me up back a few hours later after x-rays and everything back at her place. But yep. So it's cracked enough that I need to go in Monday for surgery for a plate. And so they wanted a COVID test ahead of time, make sure that I'm okay. But my husband was driving me and we were talking about, like, it's less finding out that you have COVID because you're worried about COVID. It's more like finding out that you don't have it so that your life can go on. Like, I don't want anything, like I had to go in for a physical yesterday because I had to make sure that like I wasn't going to die on the operating table. So I did that. And then I went in today and it was just like, I just don't want anything to get in the way of moving ahead with this. Right. So anyway, sorry. Thank you for.
Ellen, I've got scars here from 4 years ago. I did similar thing, broke my wrist, had to have surgery, had a plate, and I can't remember how many staples are in there. You're gonna do good. You'll make it. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I mean, I'm reading about it and I even watched like a half an hour video of the procedure the other day. I love surgery videos. They're just like so interesting to me. So were you in a lot of pain after the anesthetic wore off?
No, I just, a little bit of Tylenol, but I'm not one that likes to take the big hitters. So yeah, that was pretty good. I got some,
oh, you have it too, Mary Kay?
Some of that cream. There's that cream that's out there that's like a nice topical anesthetic kind of thing for bruising and that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. If I think of it, I'll let you know.
Arnica?
Yes, that's it.
It's Arnica.
Arnica. It's really great.
I have a little piece of titanium in there, and the surgeon said, at your age, just to fix this, we probably want to put a little piece of titanium in there. So, which means if I get on a plane, I have to tell them I got metal in here. But other than that, it was pretty painless. It was kind of limiting because it was my writing hand.
Well, that's the thing with this. That's where I'm feeling a little bit like I told my students yesterday, I usually operate on a crappy to happy scale, 1 to 7 at a 7, except now I'm at about a 6.5 because of this, because it's my writing hand. And, but you know what I discovered? This is like a technology thing, that Google Docs and Word have dictation features. So if you go to tools and then you go to like dictate or whatever, I mean, it works fairly well. It doesn't, but hey, I needed something for the computer because what I was getting from like looking online was these apps on your phone. And I don't know about you, but I don't compose my work stuff on a phone and then I would have to send it to my computer. So the ability to just dictate to a Word doc or to a Google Doc is really helpful. It's just doing like email and stuff.
If you're able to use your phone to get to Google Docs, I have done it through my phone, like in the car. We do a lot of trips and whatnot. And I have done it before where I end up speaking to my phone because it's easier than trying to type on your little phone.
Yeah.
So I'll end up talking to my phone to like do some of my lesson plans. Obviously they're generic and you have to go back and fix and whatever, because it's, voice to text isn't always exact, as I'm sure we all know. So, but yeah, it's a handy little deal.
Yeah. And then because it goes to the cloud, then you can access it on your computer. Yeah. So anyway, yes. So yes, Ellen, apparently she shouldn't have left me alone. Although, who knows, right? So it was bound to happen. It was bound to happen one of these times. I'm just regretting, that it wasn't my left hand. But my last thing on this is just, and again, you older folks will appreciate this. When in like 1964, when I did a stupid 8-year-old fall on your arm kind of thing and broke a bone. One, it's not a good parenting story because my parents didn't take me to the hospital that night because my oldest brother had an event. And so they kind of placed that in priority. thinking, and my, I have these good waspy parents that are like, you'll just tough it out, you'll be fine, right? So the next day when they do take me to the hospital, the doctor just lit into my dad, right? That, you should have brought her in earlier and all this stuff. But anyway, but when I left there, I must have had like 20 pounds of plaster on my arm, because those days they just, right. And it was, whereas now, they just have this slick stuff that will be portable and everything like that. Anyway, enough about me. I'm doing just fine. So, yeah. So how are you guys doing? Becca, you're over COVID. Naomi. Oh, Naomi just left the room. We're on baby watch with Naomi.
She said she's due tomorrow.
You're due tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and as of Wednesday, there was little to no progress. So I have done 2 rounds of acupuncture. I've walked the indoor track at the new beautiful community center in Plymouth, and eaten spicy food, and done not all of them. I don't like dates. I can't eat dates. I'm sorry. But
You know
all
what
of the
they told me
different-
to do? Because my water broke and then I had to stay overnight because they didn't want me going home. Have sex.
They said that too. But we're doing all the things. She's just very content. So
Yeah.
she may come around her due date. She may also, we'll schedule, as my doctor said, we'll schedule her eviction notice at my appointment on Monday, probably for the following week.
Yeah.
They'll let me go to 41. So I made the joke to my coworkers. I was like, maybe she's like her mom. She just needs a deadline to make her decide to actually get something accomplished. So
She's
I
just
think that's one of my favorite old wives' tales is when I was pregnant and my mom telling me, everyone's got ideas of what to do to make baby come, but my mom's was full of vacuum your house, get down and scrub the floor, and I'm like, you just want me to clean my house before the baby comes, so when the baby comes, you don't have to come help me.
I already did that. I mean, I'll do it again, but yeah, that was definitely on my list of things.
But I see, Naomi, that you're still at work. So are you planning to go to work next week, or is today your last day? You are planning to go?
The district's policy is until the baby comes or until you have a doctor's note, you
Mm.
continue to report to work, which I'm all for.
I just think that's interesting because when I was having my babies, one of the things they suggested was to stop work the week before your due date, because your body is kind of telling baby, sorry, I'm busy, not ready yet. Just like, and in similar vein, you're not supposed to watch the news or any kind of scary movies, because your body really will tell your baby it's not safe to come if you're scared or anything, or upset. So just the hormonal, endocrine, whatever, stuff that's going on in your
So the fact
body.
that we decided to just start watching the 10th season of Walking Dead is probably not a good idea.
Might not be the right time for that.
Got it. We will find a comedy instead to watch
There you
together.
go. Relaxing and life is good, and those feelings will maybe help let your little girl know it's time.
That's a good point, Greta. The Olympics is on, so we can do that.
For the record, the belief that what we do is the most important thing in these decisions. It will be helpful to you to notice that, or to know that parenting doesn't really work that way.
That is so true.
She is, even before she was conceived, she has taught me a lot, and I'm just going to continue to try and take in those lessons. I am a very type A person, and so I am also grateful to her, and I have to give her credit because I did say, if you could wait until all my lesson plans are ready to go, that would be really helpful. And I had a couple meetings earlier this week that I really wanted to be a part of, and she's been very gracious in giving that to me. So Now I need to just return the favor and say, whenever you're ready, we are ready to meet you.
I can ask a question. I have had an interesting couple weeks in visit on Wednesday evening. I have been in touch with a family that is Pashto speaking. They are one of the Afghani evacuees that came here, and we are getting more and more people from Afghanistan. Our communities are getting ready, and I will tell you that it has been really hard making some connections on behalf of this family, but I have found a few, and I started a Google Doc, which I'd be happy to share. We could collaborate. But under Operation Allies Welcome, we have a lot of families that help the U.S. Army in Afghanistan, and they are coming into, well, they're here, but the Twin Cities is getting a lot. Minnesota is getting a lot. And that has been, I was with them on Wednesday night, and it's really, 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 I don't even know what the word, I don't want to say overwhelming, because we definitely, we're going to do everything that we can, but to support this family. They've got a church group that is co-sponsoring their resettlement, but Hennepin County, very limited in what they can do. The programs that we've reached out to don't have the capacity for long-term home visiting or a Pashto interpreter. I did bring a Pashto interpreter, but I can't, but that's, HUG or Helping Us Grow isn't something that is a long-term visiting program. I can continue to go for a while. But just this whole experience, this is new, and it's a community that I think we really need to build up our supports, and maybe doing it together will be helpful.
Nikki, would you, you said you would be willing to share your Google Doc? That'd be great.
Susan, should I share it with you right now? And then, or how should I can share it with, it's just a short Google Doc, but I think it'll be helpful as we continue to build and find those resources.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share it with you right now, and then maybe share it out.
Coming from two fields of work, if you're having trouble finding resources, and I know they may not be the ones you want, but for helping families who are settling, if there is a church already sponsoring them, you might want to ask them if they want to reach out to other neighborhood churches and partner. Or there might be an Eagle Scout who might want to take on some part of support, or sometimes we think about separation of church and state as we can't work together, and that's bogus.
This isn't going to be helpful, but a few years ago, I was working with our adult basic education families, and a lot of them had been sponsored by a church to come over, but majority of them said within 3 to 4 months of being sponsored, they were completely dropped by the church and they were just on their own. So just having that information, and that potentially could happen to these families, it was hard for me to find other resources, because that had been very new to me. But trying to maybe, again, I don't have any answers, but maybe just trying to find other resources potentially outside of the church. Obviously, like you're trying to help in an ECFE setting, but even more. And I don't know organizations that do that, but just have it in the back of your head that might be saying like, oh yeah, we're sponsored. But then again, all of my families that I worked with, they were all dropped within 3 to 4 months. And they're like, now what? We don't know what. yeah, they didn't know where to go, what to do, how to, there
That
was,
isn't how some of us do that work. Remind me what district you're in? What school district?
which one, me or,
You, Megan.
oh, I'm in the Roseville School District.
Okay.
So these were churches, just around us that had sponsored them. They had left refugee camps, most of them from Thailand. So they were like the Krin families. And we are really lucky here in Roseville to have a Krin organization already formed. So they, we were connecting them with that, but they were just so isolated. They helped us find a home. Bridging came in, they were helping them kind of navigate the community, and then they were just completely cut off.
Mhm.
And so
And
this was
this-
multiple churches. It wasn't just one church, it was multiple churches. And I was very new to helping the adult basic education program. And so I was like, I don't know. So I mean, we helped them with like health insurance and those, finding food banks and those kind of things. But it was again, I don't have any answers because I don't think we did much, but it's just nice to have that information that potentially could happen to these families as well.
Yeah, thank you. I can give a few updates. They have insurance and we're navigating a lot of things on their behalf. Housing is okay right now. I found the Afghan Cultural Society, and that is a group here in the Twin Cities, local, or in Minnesota, to help bridge this gap. When I went to it, and it's on the spreadsheet or on the Google Doc that I shared when I went to it the other day, it didn't open. But the first day that I went to it, I had sent an email, and I know that it's there. I don't know if it's opening today. But the needs, like just even one example, I understand that mom had 2 root canals already and she needs 12 teeth extracted and the rest of them all have cavities. And I mean, the needs are so great. And so the church trying to raise the insurance covers the extractions and the root canals and all of that work that needs to be done. They don't cover implants. And we're looking at upwards of $50,000 just on her dental care. But it's, the focus that I think I really have, because I realize that, like Megan is saying, just the isolation piece. I found within Hennepin County, the Office of Multicultural Services, somebody who is Pashto speaking, and she sent her phone number and said, I'd be happy to help connect them with families. She's connected into the community. And I feel like, to Megan's point, that might be a more long-term resource, this connection with other families who have navigated this. She herself shared that she was an Afghan refugee and can relate to coming here and not knowing the language. And so, yes, all of these resources that we're typically reaching out to, I'm just realizing that our community does not have the infrastructure yet set up for these families. And that is what I seek to build some bridges around, because I think that we have probably, I think we're all probably going to hear this more and more.
A general question related to that, as I listen, so as I've, learned more deeply about ECFE and ECFE operations through the years, and, in the world of family science, there's this thing about the differences between family therapy and family education and family service. And I know that ECFE programs, and this is of great interest when I talk about ECFE in other places, is about the community engagement piece and the connection for families to community resources. And, as I listen to you guys, what I'm wondering is around the role of almost like social workers with your programs. And because at a certain point, it can also be, because you're all like incredibly compassionate human beings, so this isn't an issue. Although from a budgetary standpoint, right, an administrator could say, you're going up and beyond your job, and I'm floundering here because I don't want this to sound critical, because I would do exactly the same thing. I guess what I'm wondering about is resources for almost like social work type assistance to families in your school districts and in your ECFE programs. Like, is that a, so when you have families that come in that have these needs, or like Nikki, when you're talking about, these very high dental care needs and connecting families with insurance and that sort of thing, is that done through some sort of a systematic way in your school district? Like, there are people in those roles who can step up and do that? Okay, I guess that's my main question is.
So for us, it's called FACE. It's the Family and Community Engagement. So
Okay.
immediately I reached out to the FACE department or FACE team. Nothing, crickets. They said, we have not had any. We don't have any in the district. And I said, well, we do, and they're coming, and we're not ready. Yes. So, and each building has their, the role has changed terms many times, like a cultural liaison, or the title of that person, like culture and climate specialist. I don't know what the title is right now, but I think it's a FACE, or a family and community engagement liaison maybe. But anyways, I reached out to our buildings person, and she just isn't aware. So I actually shared my Google Doc, and I'm not done. I will continue to plug away at this and reach out and find our Pashto speaking members of our community that perhaps they are sitting on ideas for us.
Yeah.
But I was surprised because they didn't take this and run with it. This has been my focus all week, emails back and forth to every possible end, kind of, or direction that I can go. But I was just told by many people in our district, we don't know. So I like, whose role is it to actually pick up the ball and run and really roll with it, right?
Yeah. So what's it like in other school districts? So when you have families who come in and they have, and it could be, regular family, or like non-refugee families, or other families that are really looking for connections to community resources. Is there a process? Is there a place? Do you have like this FACE? Do you have social workers? Do you have, if entertain me here with this is an area I've always been interested in terms of community resources and engagement for families.
So I'm in the Wayzata district, and our arms stretch into like 5, maybe 6 different cities. But Plymouth is our main hub. We share Plymouth with Robbinsdale, but we have an organization called IOCP, Interfaith Outreach Partners. And so for us, a lot of the times we work very closely throughout the school district with IOCP. And when we have families that need resources, anywhere from housing to childcare to you name it, food shelf, all of that, we've established a really good relationship. So I feel fortunate for the families in our district, as long as they live. IOCP's bubble does not incorporate all of our district's boundaries, but it does include a lot of it. And so they're kind of our first reach out to get that connection, to hopefully find somewhere for these families to get some more resources. But I use the ABE classroom on Thursday nights for my class setting for parents, because it's a little bit bigger of a room and I have a bigger group. And I overheard some of the ABE teachers who were wrapping up, and they were just sharing how in their classroom, they're starting to see a few more refugee families. And they were just commenting on how that connection that families were making with each other and people in the program were making. And I almost wonder, Nikki, if you reached out to ABE, if you have any families that, are willing to, help out another member of the community.
Yes, we don't have any other Pashto speaking families there yet, but I absolutely think that would be a great place once we do. for them to be able to participate. This particular family, mom is at home with the 2 kids, baby at newborn actually, and toddler, and completely isolated. It's like no capacity to attend a program 4 days a week. Ours is from 9 until 2, and no capacity there to even take her kiddos, even they have to be 33 months to be able to be part of the preschool or the childcare program. So the adults attend their programming from 9 to 2, and the kids are with the preschool teachers or older toddlers. But 33 months. And so she's got a long ways to go before she would be eligible to participate and bring her kids. So yeah, I love that idea. And I do think that as our families arrive, that will be a great place for them.
I know transportation is a barrier and this family is probably going through so much already. In our program, again, we're like next door to you guys. If transportation could be worked out and all of that, we actually do have programming that's for littles that are much younger than that. And I know that we do have some students that are not within our district boundaries. So just keeping that in mind for them, even if it's not this year, if it's for, the fall, that's definitely, I believe we can take them as young as 6 weeks, but I'm not sure.
In your family literacy program?
It's not a
What's it
family
called?
literacy program. It's the ABE.
Right.
And with ABE, they get childcare. And so the classes are shorter. I think they're only 3 hours. But we have an infant toddler room and we have our preschool room. So depending on the child's age, they would go to one of the 2 rooms. And their sibling care for ECFE is the same classroom as the child care for ABE. So they're all together. So there are some children coming in and out throughout the day for different things. But there's 2 teachers that are in that classroom with those younger students.
Thank you. That is amazing. And perhaps an idea for next year or even the next one.
In response to your request, Susan, not quite the detail, Nikki and Naomi, that you were talking about, but do you guys use Help Me Connect from MDE? As far as when you're needing to give something, I don't know where they're at for the specific population that you're talking about, but this has been helpful. I use this in screening and I just have it on my table all the time it's supposed to do it locally. For those of you who don't know, it kind of directs you to your local organizations and it's put through by, the grants that we have from Minnesota Department of Ed, Health and Human Services. So that's another one, Help Me Connect.
So is that a PDF, Greta?
It is, they sent it out to me.
They as in,
Help Me Connect, interagency collaboration. Minnesota Department of Ed, Health and Human Services. They started it this summer. It kind of goes on with Help Me Grow. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to remember. Help Me Grow, Help Me Connect. Those are my 2 biggies that I connect with. So yeah. And they can create like a username so that they can like go out now if they're going to be needing childcare and they're looking and they can say, oh yeah, early learning and childcare. And so they can go out and then you can save the things that you need for the future or it's basic needs, emergency resources, legal services, dental care, additional caregiving and community support, tribal and American Indian families, well-being and mental health, development and behavior concerns, disability services and health and development and screening and early childcare.
cool.
Yeah.
And Greta, you said that's statewide then, that it's supposed to be, you go into it and locally it'll say what that is. That's awesome. I have not seen that.
It's
So
supposed to connect you to your local services. Yeah, anything that they have, that they know of.
as somebody who's coming from one of the smaller districts,
Yep.
and not having a lot of connections around, like we have a couple of our little things, but it would be great to know where some of those outer resources are too, that I might not even know about because they aren't as local, but could be an opportunity. And really this whole conversation, even talking about the churches, not like I see us as a huge resource to these families. Like you're talking about getting other resources, but even us, and I have a really hard time connecting with all of these families to get them to come into ECFE even. And so the church idea I thought was really great as a way for me to reach out and try and connect with these families. And we do have adult basic ed down the hall. So if they're coming in, they already have that resource. I'm more likely to connect with them. I'm having a hard time connecting with the ones that aren't already coming to ABE. So this was a good conversation to give me a couple of ideas of how to just even get them into us to start with, and then be able to give them some of the other resources. So thank you guys.
This is one of the biggest things that I feel frustrated with our ECFE. We, again, are in Roseville. We have no connection to a social worker or a psychologist. We are not allowed to go to any of them. So our center is in the basement of a K-8 school, which has a social worker and a licensed psychologist on staff. We are not allowed access to them. And then but our ECSE has access to both a social worker and a psychologist, and we are not allowed to use them either. Like I had my hand slapped for going to a particular family that I was helping, and had my hand slapped. Like, no, they'll bill you separate. You have no access to them.
I second that, Megan. And then the other thing that is frustrating with me and in our department is like I do a instructional coaching, and I went to an observation with an ECSE family the other day, and I mentioned as I was leaving, it'd be great to see you in some ECFE classes. And the parent said, well, what are those? And I was like, you're getting home visits and they didn't tell you about ECFE? What do you mean you don't know about ECFE? So I kind of wanted to cry. I'm like, you guys are a resource for us as well as us being a resource for you. Like, please feed us as much as we feed you. Yeah. So I was really frustrated with that the other day. But
it just feels unfair. I think our district is switching a little bit because we've hired 5 or 6 new social workers and a handful of psychologists. That's just one of our initiatives in the district is just mental health, and having staff have access to mental health resources as well. But it blows my mind because we are told over and over and over, you are not a therapist, right? You are not a social worker, but yet we do a lot of what they do in our program to help connect families with resources, but yet we have no resources to help.
That's so unfortunate, Megan. I have a gen ed social worker who is under ECSE. I have a special ed social worker who is under ECSE. I have a psychologist. That makes me so sad because it just makes me realize how fortunate I am in our district and how connected we are. I had a parent reach out to me last week. She reached out to the district last week and her number landed on my desk. And she was having issues with her childcare, and her pediatrician told her to reach out to community ed. And I was like, that's interesting. But I was actually able to loop in our gen ed social worker, and our gen ed social worker was able to go out to this child's daycare and do an observation. Unfortunately, by the time mom reached out to us, we were past the point of being able to help the family in the child care center work out their differences. But it's, I have the ability to reach out to all of those people and be like, hey, I have a student who is struggling at daycare. Can you go out and take a look and support the family and support the child care center so that the student can be successful? That's really unfortunate.
That's good to hear that other people have access to that, because I feel like I could get some leverage saying like, hello, we seem to be, a minority in not having access to this stuff. Not we as ECFE, a program, and our adult basic education, they have no access to a social worker or a psychologist either. And I think, hello, those are families who just, for the most part, have just recently come here. They're the ones I think who need it the most, and both of our programs do not have access to them.
We are all housed in the same building, and like my office space, it's myself and another parent educator, the intercultural liaison and early childhood specialist. And then on the other side is like all of our ECSE team for 3 to 5. And then we have an office upstairs that's all of our ECSE for birth to 3. And no matter what's happening, I can always walk up to any of my colleagues in ECSE and say, hey, a parent brought up this, any thoughts on it? I also too have sat in on like the 0 to 3 evals and intakes and stuff. I'll have families that I'll refer and they'll ask me like, do you want to sit in on this intake meeting? And for some of them I will. Because we've
used
just
to do
built
that,
that
and
strong connection.
I don't know why it changed. We were always a part of those meetings. We always had at least one representative that kind of went to some of those meetings. And about 4 years ago, they said we couldn't come anymore because of confidentiality. And we stopped getting invited to them entirely. And we didn't really understand it because it still says that you need a regular ed representative, but we are no longer invited to those initial meetings.
I feel like it's a disservice to the family because who is it that is fostering, that's supporting the process of awareness and liminality and transformation as their kids go through early intervention and potentially through early childhood special education, because there is a lot of research. We take a look at that awareness, liminality, and transformation piece. It's so clear that the families go through this, you know, the waves, and who is guiding them, right? ECSE and early intervention is going to be really focused on that child. And then as early interventionists, right, as family guided routines-based interventions. And so who's really focused on the piece of the parent development if it's not us? And I think that that is something that if it wasn't happening, I would be strongly urging districts to go to their school boards, to go to their superintendent, give them the research on liminality and what's happening with the parents. Because I think we're missing a major piece here if we're not acknowledging them and helping and to support that.
It just makes me think of, was this like our director that was saying no, but really we have the resources, but she was the one who was just like, no, you don't need that, or no, that's not your job, or, you know, like if I went higher up, if I would find out that I potentially do have access. Makes me think, yeah.
I know we have gone higher up and still did not have access. We had to in our department hire our own individually for early childhood that works now with the preschool, not really with ECFE, but works through the preschool side of it instead. So I don't know. And we did have to hire her kind of through working with pyramid model that was mentioned in the notes. Nikki mentioned it. We do pyramid model, and that was kind of our in to be able to say that's something that we need in early childhood. And so we actually were able to hire someone who has a social work background. She's not working as a social worker. She's working as our child developmentalist. She is our, child behaviorist. She is our behavior coach for pyramid model, which is another bit of coaching in there. So we hired her as the behavior coach to be able to hire her in that position, if that makes sense. But now she doesn't follow all of those same ways of really being a social worker. She's really filling that role. So we have her on hand and she's a resource to us, but we don't technically have a social worker. We kind of tried to find a way around it, I guess.
My colleagues and I were talking the other day, and we have our birth to 3 team's really great about advocating for ECFE, and we have quite a few students in our program And one of the things that we were sharing and kind of talking about is how, you know, in a preschool classroom, students would have a para there to assist them. But because ECFE is supposed to be the parent and child, we don't have the ability to have a para for students that need a little extra one-on-one, which is also really unfortunate because part of ECFE is the separation piece and the parent being able to go and participate in the parent ed discussion outside the room. And then the teachers in the classroom are then, you know, having to serve that role. And some of our kids do need some one-on-one supports, which can be a little tricky when you have a class of 12. But we
So-
make it work 100% because we want all of our students there.
One of the ways that they tried to kind of work around that in our district initially worked really well, where they would set up like their home visit during that time. And so we got that extra support in there. But what started to happen is when different teachers started filling that role, they started making it their home visit. So they were kind of removing them from participating in the class, the way the class is supposed to be set up. And they were doing a lot of pulling the parent aside and not being able to do the regular modeling and participating in the regular class that way. So it was good for the separation piece for the parent getting to actually come over, but in the actual class, it ended up being more like they were running the show, if that makes sense. So it worked with some and it didn't work as well with others, but being clear about expectations, I think would make a big difference.
It's been nice. I mean, I don't know that would work for us, but one thing that has been helpful is like with, you know, that relationship that we have with our Birth to 3 team is I have one particular student in one of my classes who, you know, she would benefit from a one-on-one para, someone who can really help her engage in the classroom. She's very disconnected. And, but what's nice is her ECSE teacher is able to come down every once in a while and just observe her within the classroom setting, which is sometimes I know helpful for them, but yeah, we make it work, and luckily it's a smaller group.
I know we're about to be done, so I'm going to totally throw a wrench in our whole conversation, and you guys can just reach out to me afterward if it helps at all. I am really kind of trying to push and try and get an option to do an outside preschool going down here. So if any of you are a part of an outside preschool or know a lot about that, I would love any connection that anyone has. What we're looking at, I see Nikki, you're going to start trying to do it too. We're doing what I'm goaling for right now is just a 3-day-a-week program in the mornings, Monday, Wednesday, Friday kind of thing through ECFE. And then I was thinking Fridays we would have Friday parent lunchtime to add that parenting piece into it. So it can be an ECFE, part of the ECFE program. So they would stay for an extra half an hour on, or either, I haven't decided for sure. They'll either stay an extra half an hour on Fridays, or we'll move up like parent pickup time to come and join us for like pizza and parenting, or we'll roast hot dogs outside, or, you know, whatever we end up doing, and having like a half-hour parenting piece on Fridays, and thinking all of our outside stuff would be focused on like science and art and all that jazz. And so we're getting something different. So maybe some of those people who are either participating in a Tuesday, Thursday, or are participating in afternoon ones would potentially still do this and their regular preschool. So, but I've got so many ideas and so many thoughts, and yet don't really have a clue what I'm doing. So I would love any resources or information any of you have. If anyone is actually running one in Minnesota, because I find all sorts of great stuff about this one in California. Well, that's not going to help me any because they don't understand winter. So just anyone who, if you got any contacts, that'd be awesome.
Check the chat, Melissa. We're all throwing stuff in there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, because as you were talking, Melissa, I remember when COVID first hit, And then starting in the fall, it was Trisha Olson, I think in Prior Lake, who was talking about their outdoor preschool that they had. And I was racking my brain, like I saw her face, but I couldn't remember either her name or, this is like tag team. So this is like, couldn't remember her name or her school district. And then Naomi put in check Prior Lake. And then it was just like, yes. So then I went to the Google member, like our group member, and I was scrolling through, and sure enough, Trisha Olson is from Prior Lake. So there's her email.
Oh,
And
perfect.
yeah,
Prior Lake, we actually, when we were building our new facility, myself, one of our other children teacher, parent eds, and our coordinator, we all went down there and looked at their facility. They are rocking nature play.
We have an outdoor classroom that we built. It was built. We moved buildings and they gave us a fence. And we had two teachers who really, it was a huge focus for them. One of them is a snowbird, so she's gone most of the year in the winter, and another one recently retired. And our new early childhood teacher is not as big on outdoor education. So that being said, we did everything outside last year during COVID, and parents were appreciative, but it's very hard to do it outside like all year. Right now, we're doing a 45-minute winter outdoor class. We play a little bit and then we do a stand-up parent time. So I can talk to you about that a little bit more, Melissa. But I will say that doing outdoor parent ed is hard. And it may have just been our location because there was nowhere adults could go to be away from the kids. To make it, our building just is terrible because it was right up next to the parking lot, and gym classes from the elementary school were using the green. It was just kind of a mess. So if you have the right setup, it could work. I just don't think we have a good setup.
I think like one of the things that our district was kind of talking about was trying to set up like a gazebo type area.
Yes.
And then having like a fire pit in the center. And I was thinking like all the parents could sit around there, and then there possibly have a couple separate picnic tables. And I'm thinking the picnic tables the kids go sit at and eat, they're gonna be busy eating, and we'll have our EA over there helping them. And then all the parents, I got your attention because you're right here, kids are taken care of.
Just make sure that
hopefully.
the parents have to be out of sight. The kids cannot see the parents.
You think even if they're over sitting at the table, it
Nope.
wouldn't work? Shoot.
Nope.
Okay,
They have out of sight, out of mind.
okay.
So something to think about, because that was something that we struggled with because we tried. They put up some tents for us in fall of COVID, the 2020 fall, and just sitting over in the tents, and kids were just standing at the fence and crying. Yeah,
Okay.
it was pretty hard. So then I would move us to another green space, but that was where the buses loaded up. And so people were walking by. So
Yep.
again, if you can arrange the space, yeah, just things you wouldn't think about, you know.
Right.
And it just became easier to just stay in the space, but then that's not a separating class, and parents wanted a separating class. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there are things that you just wouldn't think about. And doing parent ed outside is hard. You don't
Yeah.
have a whiteboard, you don't have technology. So anyway,
I've managed that a few times because we used to do Thursday night, but to be fair, my night, those ones were all less than 20-minute parenting sessions. Like they were short, but those I did manage those all outdoors. So
Yeah.
Can I offer an alternate option? So we had a class last summer. We actually ran 3 on Saturdays, every Saturday for 6 weeks, called a park tour. And we went to a different school district city park every week. And we've done that 3 or 4 years, I think. Last year we had most of them. When we went to a place that had play equipment, and we were fully staffed. So there was early childhood folks. So when the kids split, they could see us, but we were far enough away that they couldn't hear us unless we were yelling or they were yelling. And they were perfectly happy to be playing on the play area without mom or dad. And we had some great conversations up to about 45 minutes. The only challenge we had was one morning it rained a good portion of the day, but we happened to have chose that week to be in a place that had full coverage over the picnic tables where we were, and we were fine. We were just fine. So it, you know,
I've done park parenting several times where we kind of do the same thing, and I go to different parks and sit out and the kids are busy playing. I'd never have had an assistant with that at all. It's totally been come over and join me when you can and then go over. And for the most part, the parents sat at the table with me and their kids just played.
yeah,
So,
I had an early childhood teacher and an assistant, depending
Yeah,
on the numbers in the class.
I had to convince them just to let me do it. So they weren't gonna do multiple people, but I was able to do that a couple of times and that worked out well for the parenting piece. But I really want to have the preschool piece and easier to do the parenting when they're coming to pick up their kids. They're right there. So I'll definitely consider how to keep them busy during, and it might just even be like come for the lunch or whatever, and it's a short lunch, and as soon as the kids are done, they actually go to the playground. And if they're out on the playground playing, maybe they will be busy playing and not want to come sit with parents as much. And I'll think of it like a separating class. You can't take the slide over here with mom, so you can come sit with mom if you want, or you could go slide on the slide if you want. So
But you need supervision for the kids.
yeah, so this I would, because it would be the preschool program. So this is different than park parenting. This would be the actual preschool. So I'll have the EA and the teacher there as well with me.
And
So,
sometimes they took walks, like we had a couple of them where there was a small lake and there was a path all the way around. And the teacher and EA would take the kids for a walk around the lake while we were having our discussion.
yeah. That's a good idea too. Sorry to throw something at you guys at the last minute. I looked at the time, I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna get my question. So I appreciate all the help.
Well, Melissa, do you think you'll be here? I'm not putting you on the spot,
I
but
know.
do you think you'll be here next week, maybe?
I already know that there's somebody who's gone next week. So I'm hopeful that I will be able to, because we did have a sub actually take her position this last time.
Okay.
Our full-time sub just got a new job and is gone. So I have been doing a lot more subbing. So it's hit or miss, but we're running classes in person, and I'm actually working on the ECFE book, and we're hopeful that everything falls together, right?
Yeah.
So all I can do is be hopeful with it. So I have tried every time to come in, and really the biggest thing these last couple of times hasn't even necessarily been me subbing as much as I'm about to get on, and then my boss is like, hey, we have to have this talk, get over. And I'm like, all right, yep, let's figure out what we're gonna do with that. So I miss you guys terrible, and I wish I could be here every time, because I get nothing but joy from this group and information and so much that helps me with all of my planning and all of my thinking about this job in general. So I appreciate you guys tremendously. Yeah, that's my little.
Well, my intention wasn't to put you on the spot about being here, Melissa. It was more like, if you were here next week, then we could continue to talk about.
I would love that, and I will make it a higher priority to tell my boss, like, no, because we're talking about this and I need to be there. And I mean, we'll see if it,
Okay,
if
and
it falls through, but I will
even
try.
if you can't, like, I'll completely forget. So I will rely on the wonderful memories of the other 8 people who are here. But, when we start next week, because I think this is an interest, I mean, several of you have also mentioned that this is a topic that you're looking at in your district. And
I mean, I would like to start it next fall. So, it's trying to put together a proposal for it and everything now would be the way to do that. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. And Ellen, we saw your note in chat, and being all parents here.
I had to be a mom for a little bit,
Yes, totally. Yes. Did you guys, we'll close on this. I don't know if you saw it, but I posted in Friends of Family Education a link to somebody who held a parenting class, or like had parents basically just scream. That it was a thing in the news, and just opened it up. And I thought, and so I was kind of posting it in jest, like, and some wonderful person had responded and said that like they shared it with their parenting class and the parents really resonated with it. And it was just like, you never know, right? You never know where you find gold for teaching. So, so Ellen, as we close out our meeting, you know, if we hear, if I hear screaming coming from the south, we'll know it's you in Northfield. So, yeah, but we're with you. We hear you. Naomi, we will be with you in spirit this week. And
I could still be here next week.
you could still be here next week.
I could still be here next week.
That's right. That's right. Because
That's what I told my class this morning when they were like, oh, good luck. And I was like, I could still be here. You guys don't know.
that's right.
You might not be done with me yet.
She'll get here when she's good and ready.
That's really,
Right.
that's the greatest part about being a type A logical person, Naomi. You can keep being rational and that's really helpful because being the leaning more towards emotional isn't easy. At
My
this stage.
favorite part is all of my lesson plans for next week are welcome to Elizabeth. And all of a sudden I was just like, oh, I should probably have a lesson plan for Monday because I could still be here on Monday. So it was like this morning, I was like, what are we going to talk about on Monday if Naomi's still here? So, because I didn't want to take away any of the lesson plans that I've left her. So I was like, okay, we got to dig into the files and find something else to talk about.
Screaming, you know, just letting your
It could be
emotions
good
out.
practice for you in the coming days.
The parents and I are going to take a field trip outside the door. We're going to go into the parking lot.
That's right.
And
That's right.
unfortunately, the parking lot the classroom overlooks the parking lot. So we'll have to find another space to go scream in, but maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah. Do you have pillows, like pillows in your room? Like you could, you know, everybody could scream into a pillow.
Stuffed
Yeah.
animals,
Just release themselves.
coats.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you. This has been great. Thank you for supporting all of us through our, we're just supporting, right? That's what we do, supporting to each other. So we'll see you again next week. And yes, group hug. I love you all. Have a great week. We'll see you next Friday.